welcome to Crimes Through Time, a weekly snapshot of crime history. In the early morning hours of the 4th of May 1957, doctors attended the home of Kenneth and Elizabeth Barlow. Elizabeth had been discovered apparently drowned in her bath. On the surface, a tragic loss of a young mother. But how does a healthy woman simply pass away whilst in the bath? No sign of trying to even attempt to save herself. Suspicions began to mount that foul play was involved, until an eagle-eyed pathologist found 4 injection sites on her bum. Newly developed techniques detected insulin in the tissues, and Elizabeth was not a diabetic. Let's dive into the first documented case of murder by insulin. Kenneth Barlow, a 38-year-old nurse living in Thornsby Crescent in Bradford with his wife of only 11 months and a 10-year-old son from a previous relationship. From the outside, a very happy family. On the 3rd of May 1957, according to Kenneth, Elizabeth had tea around 5 p.m. Soon after, she went to bed tired. Kenneth went to bed around 9:30 and found that Elizabeth had vomited in the bed. The couple changed the bedding and Elizabeth put on fresh pyjamas, only to take them off a short while later, complaining of being hot and sweating profusely. Around 9:45 p.m, Kenneth remembers hearing the bath being run before falling asleep. He woke about 11:20 p.m. to find Elizabeth wasn't next to him in the bed. He found her submerged in the bath water. He attempted to lift her out of the bath but wasn't strong enough, so he held her head above the water until the bath drained. He then attempted artificial resuscitation by, quote, pushing on her abdomen, end quote, as he still couldn't remove her from the bath. It was only then did he run to use the neighbour's telephone to call the doctor. The couple's family doctor arrived about 10 minutes later. Elizabeth was still in the bath, in a position described as if she was in a natural sleep. He confirmed that she had passed away but did no more. He felt like the sudden death of an apparent drowning of a healthy woman required further investigation and called the police and the Home Office forensic pathologist. The doctor on call that night was Dr. Price, the consultant pathologist of Beckett Hospital in Barnsley. Dr. Price believed foul play was involved from the beginning. Elizabeth was 32 years old and of average size. Drowning in a domestic bath was unusual. The scene showed no signs that she had splashed or fought in an attempt to save herself, and there was a small amount of water in the crook of Elizabeth's arm, between that and the bath. Like the bath water had been drained around her, but she hadn't been moved. This also contradicted Kenneth's version of events. His pyjamas were dry, as was the bathroom floor. Impossible if he had indeed tried first to lift and then revive Elizabeth. The police searched the home, finding the vomit-soiled sheets and sweat-soaked pyjamas, as well as 2 used syringes in the kitchen, but no injectable medications were found. Only 6 hours after Elizabeth passed away, her post-mortem was conducted by Dr. Price at the local mortuary. He found all the expected signs of drowning in her lungs, with blood-stained froth in her nose, mouth and throat. This confirmed the cause of death. However, he noted that her pupils were widely dilated and sadly she was 8 weeks pregnant. Dr. Price collected blood samples from several areas of the body and urine from the bladder and sent them to be examined by Dr. Alan Curry of the North Eastern Forensic Science Laboratory. None of the common poisons or any substances capable of causing miscarriage were detected in any of the samples. Still, Dr. Price was convinced Elizabeth had to have been unconscious before entering the water. Brainstorming with his colleagues, the theory of insulin injection was proposed. It would account for the sweating and the dilated pupils. On the 8th of May, the decision was made to re-examine Elizabeth's body, this time under bright light and using a magnifying glass. 4 injection sites were found on her bum, 2 on each cheek. Dr. Price removed the site and surrounding tissue and preserved them for specialist testing. Only 3 drug companies manufactured insulin at this time, and Dr. M.R. Gurd, who worked for Boots Research Laboratory, agreed to carry out the testing. He tested samples from Elizabeth and used samples from other cadavers treated in the same way as controls. Easily measurable amounts of insulin were found in Elizabeth's samples and none in the controls. 2 months after her passing, on the 5th of July, Dr. Gerd reported 84 units of insulin was present at the injection sites. That's enough to treat 2 insulin-dependent diabetics for the whole day. Police arrest Kenneth on the 26th of July. He admitted to injecting Elizabeth, but denied it was insulin. He claimed neither of them wanted the baby, and he had injected her with her consent with ergometrin. This drug is used to induce labour in hospital, and at this time when abortion was illegal in the UK, by lay people, if they had access to it, to cause a miscarriage. Dr. Price was one step ahead though, and the tests of Dr. Curry ruled out that and discredited this, as well as analysis of the syringes found at the home. By good fortune, between the time Elizabeth died and Kenneth going to trial, a far more sensitive test became available for detecting insulin. Dr. Peter Wright of Guy's Hospital, London, tested Elizabeth's samples. His results confirmed Dr. Gerd's results. It was an ironclad forensic case that Elizabeth was injected with insulin. There was some circumstantial evidence that came from Kenneth's previous colleagues. The previous September, Elizabeth had had an accident in the bathroom and collapsed into the bath. He was very proud of how he had come to her rescue, lifting her from the bath, a strength he lost when he needed to rescue her the second time. He had also talked about committing the perfect murder, using insulin as a weapon as it was undetectable in the body after death. In truth, it takes around 24 hours for insulin to be absorbed into the bloodstream and to become undetectable in circumstances like this. Kenneth's trial was held at Leeds Assizes in December 1957. He protested his innocence, but there was no plausible explanation for the insulin injections. Kenneth suggested she must have injected herself, but if that had been true, why choose to inject her bum? If indeed she could reach to do that, wouldn't she use a more accessible area of the body? And where did she source the insulin? She wasn't in the medical field like Kenneth, and where did she dispose of the empty vials and syringes? Strangely, there seems to be no motive for the murder, other than not wanting the baby that she was carrying. He was found guilty, and Justice Ziplock sentenced him to life in prison. He would serve 26 years and be released in 1984, still maintaining that he was innocent. Although this is documented as the first known insulin murder, Elizabeth strictly did die from drowning, but that was only made possible by the presence of the insulin. She had been given such a massive dose that she was definitely unconscious, and there is a likelihood that if he had just waited, she would have passed away by the morning. By then, the insulin would have been absorbed into the body, leaving no evidence for the pathologist to find, and leaving him no case to answer. Like many people who choose to commit these kinds of crimes, their own behaviour is what gets them caught. She probably wasn't dying quick enough for him, and he decided to drown her, thus sealing his own fate too. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and let me know what you think of this case in the comments below, and I look forward to welcoming you in the next one.